Sridhar sir,
Yes, ma'am.
sir, I'll start it, sir. Let them join, sir. Okay, sir?
Sure.
Yes,
No.
sir. Good morning, dear professor. Hope all are safe and healthy. I want to remember you all the word of our beloved APJ Kalam. To succeed in your mission, you must have a single minded devotion to your goal. So, all be brave and strong. Keeping this note, welcome you all for today's webinar on to write a quality research article for SCI Index Journal, organized by Pratusha's Research and Development Department and Intellectual Property Facilitation Center, with the support of read by our beloved Chairman Sir, CEO Ma'am, Advisor, our beloved Principal Sir, and our R&D Head Dr. S. Arun. I like to introduce our today's speaker, Dr. Sridhar Iyer. He has completed his Doctor of Philosophy from the University of Delhi in 2017, Master of Science in Electrical and Computer Engineering from Phillips School of Electrical and Computer Engineering, New Mexico State University, and he has completed his BE in Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering from Dan Bosco Institute of Technology, Mumbai University, Mumbai in 2005. At present, he is Dean Research and Development and Associate Professor in Department of ECE at SG Belagundari Institute of Technology, Bangalore. He has research experience of 12 years and has published 70 research articles in reputed journals and conferences. And his research domain includes ML, optical networks, and many more. He has published books and chapters like Optical Network Performance in Presence of Physical Layer Impairments in Lamb Lambert Academic Publication. And he has also secured many awards by the Ministry of Science and Technology, Department of Science and Technology, Science and Engineering Research Council in the Fast Track Scheme, Young Scientist Award from DST SERB Government of India in 2013, and Young Researcher Award INSC in 2021. He is a designated reviewer to various high-impact journals such as PNET JOC Springer, IEEE JOCN, and IEEE JLT, and many more, elsewhere and many more. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation, and I think today's session will be a great eye-opener for all of us in the forum. Now the floor is yours, sir. Sir, you can start your session, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am, for the introduction. Uh, I'll try to share my screen. Ma'am, please let me know if my screen is visible.
Yes, sir, it's visible, sir.
Okay. Do you also want my video to be switched on?
Yeah, so you can switch on your video also, sir.
Okay. One second. I'll share my screen again. I hope my screen is visible, ma'am.
Yes, visual, sir.
Okay. So I'll start. Good morning to all the participants, and thank you for having me in the session today. Hopefully, by the end of the session, uh, we'll all have a good idea of how to go about publishing in an SCI index journals, which is a difficult task, to be very honest. But if we go in a particular way, then it is quite possible that we can publish in an SCI index journals. So I'll try to make this as interactive as possible so that it is not just one-sided. So I'll put out a disclaimer before I start. All the suggestions and remarks which are made here are only through my personal experience. All the practices in the research, they vary from person to person. So what I am saying and what someone else will tell you may vary because of the experiences. So there's no hard and fast rule of publishing. The best way is the trial and error method, to which even I have learned. So you will see in some of the slides, I will also highlight the mistakes and errors which I made during my early research days, and how I have learned through that. So I think that will really help everybody understand what kind of mistakes we should not make. So I'll start off on a lighter note. Uh, what is the neurobiology of writing? So when we sit to write in front of our system, we expect that all the information will flow and our hands will work and our language will be very good, and everything will be spot on, and the article which comes out is going to be the best article. But usually what happens is the one on the right hand side where there's a lot of confusion. There's in some people there's insecurity. That really happens if English is not our native language. The impact of mother tongue is more in our language, so that's how the article comes out, and all that leads to panic and then no motivation, and the other kinds of ideas. So uh, people end up either taking a vacation, or the best way is to ask for help. So this is on the lighter note, but this really happens with most of the people, and then the quality is really not there. So there are two objectives in my talk today. The first one is what should be done before we write an article, and then the second objective will be how to go about it or how to write the article. So I'm sure everybody is aware of these three types of manuscripts or articles, whatever you want to call it. You could have a conference article, you could have a research article, which is also known as a full or original article. Then you can also have a survey or a review article. So these are the three types in general. Of course, you also have letters and one-page articles and so on and so forth. But predominantly, these are the three types of articles which we have. So, a conference article is usually when you are at the start of your career or your start of your doctorate, where you want to get some motivation by publishing. However, the way I see a conference is more of understanding what is going on in that area where we are working. So, the conferences, I mean, I don't want to be very critical of the conferences these days, but these days the conferences really do not engage the researchers in dialogue. They are more of just publishing in a particular proceeding, and just going to the particular place and doing it. However, there are few in India which have really maintained the quality. For example, the NCC, the National Communication Conference, which happens in one of the IITs or ISC every year. It has really maintained the quality where there's a lot of dialogue. So this really helps the researchers, especially the ones who are in the early stage of their research career, to really engage in the dialogue and know what exactly other people are also doing and what kind of ideas will germinate out of it. So that has really diminished over a period of time where people have really tried to keep their research as a secret. However, I will also highlight later on that that is not a good idea, because really it affects your H index and I index, right? So that is not a very good idea to do by keeping it a very secret. The idea of your research as a secret. Okay? So usually a conference article would be about 5 to 10 pages. Actually, if you go by the IEEE norms, it would be about 5 to 6 pages. There are some conferences, for example, if you are in the optical domain, it's called Optical Society of America. They also have about 1 or 2 pages of conference articles. I will show you that later as one of the examples. And you have few figures, about 3 to 4 figures, and a few references, about 10 to 15. So it's a very good way of starting a scientific career. So from my end, I would suggest everyone to go for a good conference where you actually get something out of it rather than just publishing. I mean, publishing will always happen, but really you come out of it to work more and then publish in a journal. The next type is, of course, the research article or the full article. This is supposed to be the original research work which we do. Typically 8 to 10 pages, 5 to 10 figures, 25, 30 references. This is the way we build our scientific career. Here, the number of pages is very important. If you go with SCI index journal, they really limit the number of pages. For example, if you take any kind of a Springer article, for example, they limit you to about 10 to 12 pages. If you take, for example, a Taylor and Francis, let's take a national journal like IET Journal of Research, which is Taylor and Francis. They limit us to about 8 pages or so. Further, if you have more than 8 pages, you are bound to pay a certain amount. Right? So the pages, the number of pages is very important in the journal, because the publisher has to pay for more and more pages, right? So it really should ring a bell in our head, saying that in those number of pages we should be very good and efficient to highlight whatever our work is, right? So that also is something that I will point out in the second objective, where we really miss the bus, like where we really lack as early researchers usually, and what we should avoid, because we don't want to just increase the number of pages. That's not a good idea. And the third type predominantly is a survey article. So this will be a particular domain where we are working on, and we survey and review whatever what is the work that has been done till date, and then what are the open research ideas that we get out of that. So typically 10 plus pages. Some would span even 20 pages. If you go with IEEE communication and surveys and tutorials, there are some which go about 25 to 30 pages as well. A lot of diagrams, lot of references. Some go to about 150, 200 references. So it's a good way to consolidate a research career. And as you can see in the diagram, it really narrows down to basically the domain, where we are actually working on. So we take a background of the work, and we try to narrow it towards what exactly we are doing. So the way I personally do a review or a survey article is, I survey all the studies in the particular domain, and then put it up in a table, which really showcases what is the work which is done, and what is the work which is not done. And then finally, towards the end of the article, I put out the research ideas or the open problems of research which need timely solutions. So because of this, then the reader, the person who is reading the article, gets an idea of the work which has been done, followed by what are the gaps in research, and those gaps are the ones which need to be targeted. So if I take this idea into a PhD domain, then it really helps the research scholar as well, because if you state about 8 to 10 open problems of research in the review article, and then out of those, if you target 2 or 3, and then you accomplish those 2 or 3, then during your defense, nobody can say that these problems were already solved and these are not novel, because you are able to publish it. Right? So the reason why I put out the survey article towards the end, and I'm spending more time on the survey article, is because of that. Because usually the mindset is that an original or a research article will really fetch us a lot of citations. However, that is not the case. As you can see on the graph, the survey and the review article is the one that really gets you a lot of citations, because it's a consolidated work with a lot of effort, lot of references, and it really helps the reader to understand what are the gaps in research. So we should pay a lot of time, lot of effort into doing a survey article. So again, a suggestion from my side, if as a PhD supervisor, I always ensure that the students start off with a review article, and it's a very thorough review with a lot of references, and it is up to date. So since we are in 2021, I do not go below 2018, year 2018. From 2018 till 2021, I would consolidate and pick out all the articles, good published articles, and then mention that in a table, mention an open problem of research about 8 to 10, and then take it from there. So the citations that you get from the review articles is much higher than the original articles. Of course, conference articles don't fetch you much citation. However, there are few conference articles which really do get a lot of citation, because the work done in those is really good, right? So, but in general, that is the trend. So the takeaway from this particular slide is that we must focus a lot on the review and the survey articles. They'll get a lot of citations. Of course, I'm sure everyone is aware of the impact factor. So the impact factor basically is, if we are in 2020 and impact factor of a journal is 3, then it means that in the previous three years, every article has received at least 3 citations on an average. So a good impact factor would mean that the journal is very good. Of course, in the area of it depends from area to area. So if you go into basic science, the impact factor will be very high because those articles are being used every now and again because they are standards. If you take from the area where I work, let's say from optical networks, for example, the impact factor is about 1, 1.5, 1. But the journals are very, very good. So if you take IEEE Communications magazine, they're about 1.2, 1.3. It's a very high impact factor, and they publish less, but they publish a lot of quality. So impact factor is a good benchmark, a good standard to follow if you go with a particular journal. Of course, the publisher matters as well. So if I go with Springer, Elsevier, IEEE, of course, and then many others, depending on the area, then that's a good way of submitting the article and getting it accepted. Google introduced this H-index idea. So basically, H-index is if you have published H papers, each of them are cited in at least other papers H times. Right? So it's a good. It really tells us what is the age of the researcher. Right. So as the H-index will go, the age will also go. However, there is a problem here, which I see. If I have 10 articles, I may take those 10 articles of mine and keep referring to them in my further papers. So my next 10 papers will start citing the same papers. So that's not a very good idea because this is self-citation. So I'm not doing research for my own self. I'm rather doing it so that it gets disseminated and people read it, cite it, make use of it because I'm doing it for the society as such, right? So with this idea, Google Scholar came up with I10 index, which really is the one that matters, right? So it is really the articles which an author has written that have 10 citations, at least 10 citations from others. So it really matters. So if your research is really good, then others are going to cite it, and that is what really matters, right? So I'm sure everyone who has published or will be publishing very soon will have a Google Scholar account like that. It comes in automatically. You will get a link of that, and then it shows you what are the articles which are cited by the year, and it also gives you a good graph of how we are progressing, right? So it mentions the citations, the H index, and also the I10 index. So I really go with the I10 index because it really tells me how good my research has been over a period of years because others have cited it. So it's not just it's just not my citation. So if my H index is very high, personally I don't view it as a very good index because it predominantly has my own citations, right? But I really view the I10 index as being a very good index, right? So that graph needs to keep increasing to ensure that or show that we are in the right path on research, right? So indexing again is very, very important. We must go with indexing. So there are various kinds of indexing. In general, in India, most of the universities have a benchmark of at least Scopus indexing. There are also many higher indexing. So you can have SCI, SCIE. Web of Science, of course, comes with most of the journals. Nature is something which is very difficult to publish in. Then depending on the area, you could have various IEEE journals. You have IET, Springer, Elsevier, Taylor and Francis. Wiley is there, John Wiley and Sons, MIT, IOP. So there are different kinds of journals, and we should be in a position to really understand what is the benchmark, right? So a university or a governing body may specify a particular indexing. In my opinion, the researchers should always try for a higher indexing. So if we are really looking for a very good indexing, an above average indexing, if I want to say it, then we should always target SCI and SCIE. These journals are hard to publish in. The review is very, very rigorous. The revisions are very, very rigorous. After revising the first time, it doesn't guarantee that your article would be accepted. So it really tells you where you are as a researcher rather than just publishing, here and there. And of course, there are many predatory journals, as the UGC calls it, fake journals. So we must be very, very careful about those. In regard to Scopus, I would say that wait at least 3 to 4 years for that journal, right? And then see whether that journal remains in Scopus indexing. Because I've seen many journals which were in Scopus in 2012 till say, let's say 2016, and someone has published a paper during those years, and that they claim that it is Scopus, but after 2016 they are not yet in Scopus. So it means that the journal has not been doing very well. And even though we published during the years when it was Scopus, it really doesn't give us any value, right? So we must be careful. This is one end of the spectrum. The other end is a journal requires at least 3 to 4 years to really establish itself. So you would see a very many Springer, Taylor and Francis IEEE journals which are not indexed because they've just started. But you know for sure that within the 3 to 4 years span, they would really be coming into Scopus, SCI, and even higher. So give those journals some time. It is always I am always okay with journals published by Springer, Elsevier, IEEE, even though they are new journals, to go with them, because I know that over a period of time they will meet the benchmark. But I would never do that with a journal which I'm not really sure of. So your gut feeling will tell you, as you attain experience, which journal will sustain, which journal will not sustain, right? So I'll give you an example. There's a journal of information and technology in Taylor and Francis, right? And it started 2 years back. So I could publish about 2 papers in 2 years. And it was still not Scopus also at that time, but now it is Scopus, and I know it will sustain, and I know within a couple of years it will also attain SCI, because the readership is so good, and the reviews were so rigorous. So I know that that journal is going to sustain the benchmark which we have. So really it really depends on the researcher. Are you publishing for the sake of publishing, or to meet certain norms, or are you doing it so that you get higher readership and higher citations, and you want to maintain the quality, right? So these are the two things which really the researcher would have to look at, right? So indexing plays a very important role. So I really suggest to go with at least SCI, SCIE, because this basically is an above average indexing. Of course, you have very high indexings like Nature and so on and so forth, right? Next is language important? Yes, language is very, very important. For all of us in India, English is not the native language. Our mother tongues have a very strong influence on our language, and our mother tongues, whichever it could be, doesn't work like how English works. So they're actually different. So we need to pay a lot of attention on the language. The way we talk, the way we converse should not be the way an article is written. Technically strong written article, needs a lot of language copy editing, a lot of proofreading. So we need to give a lot of time in the language. Here, I do not mean that we need to start using fancy words from some dictionary. That's not the intention. But it needs to be in a way which communicates technically. So we need to pay a lot of attention. Whenever I give these kind of sessions, many people don't take it nicely, because we have been learning English since probably first standard, before that. But the point to understand is that is not our native language. For most of the majority of the time, we converse in our mother tongues, be it any language. Therefore, that influence is very strong in our writing as well. So we need to pay a lot of attention. Of course, copy editing happens at the journals. However, it happens once the article is accepted. So we cannot depend on those. In certain publishers, for certain publishers, they charge you money for it. Okay? So we need to prevent those and that will be probably in dollars and euros. So we need to pay a lot of attention. In my experience as a reviewer, I have seen that the people, the authors are able to have done very good work, but they are not able to express it in a technical manner, and therefore it leads to rejection or just a borderline kind of an article, right? So really we need to pay a lot of attention on the language, how we are writing it, especially in review articles, because review articles are all about the words and how we frame the sentences. So in India, I have seen from my experience, there is not a lot of effort that authors put on the language. They put a lot of importance on the simulations, experiments, and those areas, which is fine, which is technical aspect. But ultimately, whatever results we have, whatever we have done, we need to put it in a particular format. So that needs a lot of effort from our side. So do publishers correct the language? Yes, they do. But it's completely the author's responsibility to use proper language prior to the submission. If it is not a good submission, most likely the article gets it gets rejected, or it becomes borderline. It becomes a real problem. So language is very important. Sentence construction, tenses, grammar, language mixing. So all this happens with us, because as I said, English is not our native language. So we need to be very precise. Another experience which I've had reviewing journals is in India, we try to lengthen the article, right? We believe that if the lengthier the article is, the better it is. However, that is not the case. The article must have majority of our work rather than majority of what has been done, right? So I'll show you examples as we move ahead, that the related work or the literature review needs to be very short. It needs to be very precise. About 80 to 85% of the journal article needs to be our work, right? So for that, we need to write with a lot of clarity. The sentences should not be jumbled up. It should not be very complicated for the reviewer, the reader. It should be very easy to understand what is going on, right? Mathematical equations, yes, they are complicated, but they can always be found out through references. But sentences should not be complicated. It should not happen that the reader doesn't understand what the author is trying to say, right? So we need to be simple, but not simplistic, not fancy at all, not to use those fancy words at all. We need to write with brevity, very short and to the point, rather than being verbose, like a lot of words and this and that. So in my experience, I've seen if the article is 10 pages, about 6 pages, the authors write what work has been done. That's of absolutely no use at all, right? Therefore, I always suggest to my students that if you are taking any references, don't go below 3 years of the current year. So since we are in 21, I would never go beyond 2019, at the max 2018, because if I go to 2010 9, the references just keep increasing. Of course, books standards which were done in yesteryears, of course there's no you can't have anything else apart from that. But any references, we need to be very, very clear. So this will really save the pages of the article, and it will give us more space to write our own work which we have. So now I come to the objective two, which is really, really important. How do I build up my article properly? So here, different authors will give you different ways of writing, different ways of reading. So this is completely my experience, and this has really helped me uh, more than more than telling all the participants what to do. I will be highlighting on the mistakes and errors which I have made over the years, so that you will be able to understand better how to do it, right? So I have paid some price for my mistake over the years, and I've learned from that. So I hope that will work as we move on, right? Okay. So what is the general structure of a full article? I'm going to focus on full article, then I also give you examples later on. So each section is going to have a definite purpose. Okay. And each section needs to be written with a lot of thought, understanding what is the section about. For example, in the conclusion section, I cannot write about the methodology just to make it longer. It needs to be very concise. In the methodology section, I cannot start talking about the simulation results or experiment results. So it needs to have a definite purpose, right? So of course we should start with the title, abstract, and keywords. So in this slide, I'll only specify these, but as we move on, I will be taking each of these and telling telling the participants the details. So title, abstract, keywords, they need to be very easy. It needs to be attractive, especially the abstract. It needs to be very concise. This is basically the selling part of your article, right? So I've seen abstracts where again authors mention a lot of work which has been done rather than their own work. That needs to really not happen. Maybe a line or two of what has been done or what is lacking, and majority of what the author has achieved. So it needs to be very informative. it needs to be very attractive. That is the selling of your article. The title, again, we need to make it very attractive. I'll talk about it and you'll understand what I'm trying to say. And of course, the keywords are always there, which help us in indexing. There are certain journals which also specify to pick keywords from certain standards. So that comes when you are actually submitting the journal. The next is your introduction, method, results, and discussion. This IMRAD is something which is just specified. It depends on the author to author how they actually want to write it. But usually we go with introduction, then we go with the methods or methodology, and then results and discussion. So, like I've been stressing on, journal space is precious. Please make your article as brief as possible. So please do not highlight the kind of work which has been done already, right? It needs to be the work. It needs to be the work which we are doing. That needs to be more which needs to be done, right? So I'll be picking on these parts one by one. And then comes the conclusion. If you want to give any acknowledgement, very, very, very important references. Again, I have seen in my experience that many authors do not really concentrate on the references. References are the most important part of any article because we are acknowledging the authors, the other authors. Therefore, the format needs to be followed. If it is an IEEE format, APA format, whichever format is there, it needs to be followed with a proper citation, proper credit given to the authors. Any supporting material which you have, these are not mandatory, right? So usually we write an article which should be general, particular, general, which means you start with a general idea like an introduction. You go to the particulars, that is specifics, that is methodology and results, and then you go to the general part again, which is the conclusion. However, like I've been mentioning, from my experience, we focus more on the particulars. Of course, they are important because they are the work, they are our work, right? The methodology, the figures and tables. So we concentrate a lot on that, and in all of that, we kind of tend to neglect the general parts, which is the introduction and conclusion, right? So introduction and conclusion really has to be very, very specific, and we really need to attract the reader into going one after the other. Okay, he has read the abstract. Okay, let me see now what is there in the introduction. And towards the end of the introduction, what is the novelty of the book? Okay, so I want to read the methodology. In the methodology, we leave some space for the reader to think, okay, what results have been obtained. So it's always to develop that curiosity for the reader, because ultimately we are publishing for people to read, right? Of course, you are publishing to get other benefits as well, probably finishing your PhD or getting a publication into your CV. But ultimately, it is going to be read by different people. So it needs to be done understanding the reader's aspect. So I'll now be picking on these individual aspects one by one, and hopefully that will give more clarity. So title, it needs to get the reader's attention. It needs to be very specific. It needs to be very concise. Please avoid jargons and abbreviations. I'll give you an example in the next slide. So one of the articles which I had written a little earlier, was something like that, ESSON, and it says elastic spectral and spatial optical network. So even if we are not from that area, it tells us, okay, it's based on optical networks and it deals with some spectral and spatial kind of domains, right? That's it. That's the only title we have. Okay, there's nothing more than that. Okay. So now let me tell you the examples and my mistakes. So phrases to avoid: investigation, study, novel. Novel doesn't work anymore. Please do not use novel. Okay, I have seen really high index journals returning back the article to the author once novel is used. Okay. Also avoid acronyms which are known to only specialized community. So why is that? Now I have been working on optical networks for a very long time. Very recently, about a year back, I moved to wireless network. Right? So now when I'm trying to understand wireless networks, and if the author uses only the acronyms known to wireless community, it becomes very difficult for a new person in wireless network to understand that. Right? So you need to understand that there could be such researchers and authors and readers who are trying to come into this domain and community. Right? So we need to understand their mindset as well. Right? So these were my mistakes. So and these are published articles. Okay? So study on, and then I have used an abbreviation PLIA in optical WDM. I have not specified what WDM. So this WDM will be known only to people who are into the networks area, specifically the optical networks area. Only they will know that is wavelength division multiplexing. But someone who is a new person reading this would not know what WDM is, right? So it really doesn't help that person. Right? Then I've also started with investigation. Then I've started with a novel and WDM. So these were some of the errors which I made earlier, when I started off, and then I learned from them, and then I rectified these mistakes. So now I have written wavelength division multiplexed in bracket WDM, and then the last one, if you see, I have completely written elastic optical networks, where some people just write EONs in short, right? They would also write SDN, software defined networking, in short. So it is always good to avoid these kind of acronyms. And uses of words like investigation, study, novel. These are some of the words which are not taken very well by the reviewers these days, and even by the journal. So we need to try to avoid. So you need to give some time in, framing the title as well. So please don't frame any title, which comes to your mind the very first time. You can always put it down and then rework on it. A line, maximum 2 lines, not more than that. Some journals even specify the number of words and characters in the title. So you need to abide by those. Next is abstract. This is one of the important aspects in a journal. If you want to go for an SCI indexed journal, if you want to publish in that, your abstract must be spot on. It must be very, very clear. If you are from, on networking or let's say a domain which is not theoretical, then the numerical results which we have obtained, a gist of that needs to be mentioned in the abstract. There's a 5% increase, 10% decrease, there's a trade-off. These important results which we obtain in our work, those need to be mentioned in the abstract. Please do not mention in the abstract what work has been done by other authors, not required. In fact, you can start your abstract with, in the current work we have done so and so. There's no harm in doing that. You need not give a background. Okay. If you want to give a background to what you have done, that's also fine. Maybe a line or two, but not more than that. Right? The number of words, number of paragraphs, this also depends from a journal to conference. In the next couple of slides, I will give you the example of how we can write these abstracts. Right? So really, please give the major results, findings of your of your work, of your study analysis in that abstract. So here I'm giving you an example of an abstract. What you will see is there's a part of the line which I have cancelled, and it's white in color. You will not be able to read it. It has been kept purposely. It has been kept so purposely. I don't want the participants to read that because it is domain specific. The words which you are able to read very clearly, for example, in the current work we address. So we start an abstract with saying, in this work we are addressing. What we are addressing, that depends from domain to domain, right? So I'm not going into that. So in this current work, we address so and so. Okay. Next part, initially to obtain something, we formulate so and so. So I'm telling the reader what we are trying to obtain, and for obtaining that, we are formulating something, right? This again is domain specific. That's why I've made that white and cancelled it. No need to read that, but you'll be able to understand the flow. So I start with, in the current work we address so and so. Initially, to obtain so and so, we have formulated this and this. Next, we propose so and so. So you can see that the reader is now curious. So in the current work the author is addressing, he's obtaining, for which he is formulating, he's also proposing something. Then the authors have conducted extensive simulations. So now my curiosity says, okay, with all of this, what are the results that the author has obtained? The obtained results are so and so. Further, the results also revealed. So you can see the flow. In all of this, I'm generating the curiosity of the reader. And by reader, I mean the reviewer as well. right? So we really need to keep in mind that there are people who are going to read our article, right? We are not doing it just for ourselves, right? So I've generated a curiosity in the mind of the reader that, I'm doing something for which I have formulated, a particular model, or a test bed, whatever it is, for which I have done an extensive simulation, and then I have shown these kind of results. Okay? So this is an abstract which can be followed if you have space to work with a lot of words. Some journals give you space for 200, 250, 300 words, right? So here is an example of a 200 word abstract. Again, I have done the same. I've only highlighted the words which we need to focus on. So there's a proposed solution, but there is a problem. That means I'm telling the reader a solution already exists for a particular problem. Okay, I'm not focusing on the problem. Problem could be domain specific. So there is a problem for which a proposed solution exists. But there is a problem with that solution. Therefore, in the current work, I'm formulating something and proposing something, right? Once I do that, I'm evaluating the model or the test bed, and then I'm also investigating, that particular model. Here you will see I have not specified what results I have obtained, because I am leaving that towards the end to make the reader curious. Okay. The reason why I have done that is because this particular journal was a letter. It is not just an article. It is a letter. So in the letter, because it is a letter, I'm trying to generate that curiosity towards the end. Okay. However, I did not do that previously. I gave the results in the abstract itself. So really, it is up to the researcher and the author to really understand what to mention, what not to mention. Okay. But you can again see the flow. There's a proposed solution. There is a problem. Therefore, in this work, I am doing so and so, formulating so and so, proposing so and evaluating so and investigating so and so. So here I had a lot of space to work with the words. So I could I could use so many words. This is a 35 word abstract. The conference wanted a 35 word abstract. If I make it 36, it will not accept my submission. So really, I have to scratch my head. And my experience for doing so was it took me 2 months to write this abstract, because I just don't have any space for to play with the words. So I just went by we investigate and the results demonstrate. That's all. Right. So the lesser the number of words, so you can see it becomes tough for us when the number of words is lesser for us. But we should always try to do that, because we want to highlight our own work more and more. Right. So towards the end, I will also show you this particular conference article, which had 35 word abstract, and it was a 3-page article. It could not exceed more than 3 pages. So I'll show you that example as well. So I hope this gave an idea of how we could write an abstract. What are the different ways to write an abstract? Then comes the keyword. I think this is very simple. There's not much to explain. The journal only mentions keywords. These days, once you register into a journal, they ask you for the keywords itself. So keywords are very important because they help in indexing of your article, and through the keywords, your article is more highlighted, more advertised. So if I just type spectrum, a lot of articles will come, and maybe one of the articles, this article shows up as well, right? So please use keywords properly to highlight your. See, in every step, we must go with the intention to advertise our article. We don't want to keep our article secret. Please don't do that. We want to highlight and advertise our article because I want people to read it. So citations are more, my research is used more. And then I would get, it's okay for people to even criticize the work. That's fine. I could work on it. But if I really keep this a secret, not highlighted, then it's of no use. Then I think that everything is fine. That's not the intention of research. So we need to highlight it, right? So please use keywords appropriately. Journals give the guide of authors and in which keywords are also there. Next comes the introduction. Again, in this part, my experience has been that authors write a lot of work which has been done, and this author has done that author has done that, and it just keeps going on and on. That's not the intention of the introduction. The introduction is very simple. What is the problem? What is the solution, if there are any? Which is the best, which is not the best? out of this, what have we understood and what is our proposal? That's all. So I don't need to get 16 to 20 references to say, this exists, that exists. 2, 3, 4, 5 latest ones, more than enough. Once I do that, I will know what are the existing solutions. If there is a best solution, what is the loophole? What is it that they have not done? And then what is it that I want to do? So I personally, towards the end of the introduction, always have a small paragraph in which I clearly mention the novelty of my work. I make it very clear to the reviewer that from all the studies which we have seen, we have noticed that this and this is the problem, or this and this has not been addressed, and therefore the novelty of our work is so and so. So it becomes absolutely clear to the reader what is the novelty of our work, right? So let me show you an example on that. So again, I've done the same. There is a major chunk of paragraph I don't want the participants to read. It's domain specific. So I start here. There is something which is existing, but it may require. So I am telling the reader what is the problem, what is the requirement. Right? So there's already an existing solution, but it may requisite, it may require. So I'm telling what is the problem, what is the requirement. It also can be accomplished. This problem can be solved. So I'm also telling the reader what is the existing solution. Right? So there is a problem, there is a requirement, it can be accomplished. So I'm not saying that there is no solution to that problem. There is an existing solution. However, it has some problem. What is the problem? It results in use of less of something, unneeded loss of something. So I'm making it very clear to the reader that, see, there is an existing solution to the problem, but it is giving you lesser something and loss of something. So that is the limitation of the existing solution. So I've made it very clear to the reader. So even if you keep reading all these, literature, you will see that there is a limitation. So existing solution is not efficient. It is having some limitation. So now what is the next step? So obviously the next step is I should be in a position to address this limitation. And that is what I've done. In the current work, we show so and so. And I'm also making it very clear that this kind of work has not been done. We demonstrate some gains. This is our solution, our novelty. So I'm saying that to the reader. This is my introduction. And finally, another. So this is my introduction. And this was published in Springer. This is my introduction. It was about 3/4 of a page. So I've kept it very simple. And the number of references which I've used is just 7. 1 to 7. That's it. So you can see if I have about 10 to 12 pages, now after this one page, I have about 10 pages more for just my work. Right? So I made it very clear. So please be very brief in the introduction as well and go line by line. We don't have to just throw out words and make it long. Longer doesn't really work in SCI index journals. It's not about longevity. It's more of your work. So you will always see in SCI index journals, specifically about 80 to 85% of the work is the author's work. It's only a little amount initially which they give a background. Right? And it needs to be very, very specific. Okay, so I hope this introduction, this has given some idea to the participants how we can go about doing an introduction. Next is your assumptions and methods, which comes into the methodology. Again, please do not mention previously published procedures because it is your work. We are not, interested in what previous works have done. You could mention it, but don't describe them. Right? Identify any equipment, hardware, software, whatever. I mean, depending on the domain which you're working at, identify them and mention them. So I'll give you an example. So for the simulations, because my work was simulation, for the simulations, we use so-and-so topology. Figure 4 and table 3 gives you the details. We are using a particular kind of algorithm. So I've also told them what is the algorithm. The number of demands are so-and-so. And the results are found and averaged. So I'm telling that the results are found, but they are average results. Because mine was a simulation work, I ran them, over 20, 25 times. So it's an average. So I'm just giving you a highlight of what assumptions and methods I've used, right? And I'm using like an ILP linear programming model. And I'm also using a software, which is an IBM Cplex software. And the plots are generated using MATLAB. So I've completely covered what is the kind of assumptions I'm using, where are they stated, which figure, which table, what algorithm I'm using, what is happening to the results, are they averaged, are they having some confidence intervals, which model am I using, what kind of software or hardware I'm using, and how are the plots or results generated. Right? So again, this will be very domain specific, but this is one of the examples on how the assumptions and methods could be given. Results, very important. So my experience with results is, again, I'll share with you, there's hardly half a page of results. If we do that, SCI index journals are not going to accept it. It has to be, to the point, lot of detail. All the detail about the results need to be given. Whether it is graphical, whether it is table, if you're using any photos. I mean, it again is domain specific. Please do not try to have more number of graphs just to increase the length. As you can see in the last graph, there are a lot of plots inside that graph. So please try to give your results within a graph. Don't try to make it long. Again, those journals don't appreciate that. If you see the second graph, you can see there are a lot of histograms there. So within the graph, try to give as much information as possible so that the discussion and the detailing which we are doing, you have more space for that. If you have multiple graphs, your space for discussion goes low, and that is not really appreciated. So please try to do that. Okay, and the captions need to be proper. Some journals use figure FIGURE, some use only FIG dot the number. Some need to be bolded, some need to be so these are some of the things where we need to put a lot of effort. So please proofread. I'll come to the proofreading and copy editing also as we move on. Right? Next is discussion. Without this, your article absolutely has no meaning. Okay, so there's a lot of debate on the discussion. So as you can see at the bottom, there are 3 darts which are there. So the leftmost is showing good accuracy, but precision is very poor. The next one, the one in the middle, shows poor accuracy, but precision is very good. The last one shows good accuracy and good precision. So now it is up to us to decide which one we want. And obviously, I'm very sure everyone wants good accuracy with good precision. And that's how the discussion needs to be. Please make your discussion correspond to the results. Please do not discuss something which is irrelevant. So I have seen many articles which I have reviewed in SCI index journals, which do not correspond to the result at all. They rather discuss what other authors have done. That's just doesn't make sense. I mean, it will be just outrightly rejected. You need to make your discussion really correspond to the result, right? So let me give you an example. So this is a discussion of two of the graphs in one of my SCI index journals. So you can see, if you look at the graph, all the details are mentioned in the graph. All the details are mentioned in the graph. If you read the sentence, that sentence is the only discussion for these 2 graphs. If you see, I've bolded those words. You can see those MR and MC, and you can read those 3 in both the graphs, right? 18%, 61%, you can see it in the graph. You can again see these 3 and 17% and 31% in the second graph. So I have covered all of that in the discussion, and I've given all the details in the graph also. Right? So we need to make our graphical illustrations as effective as possible. And all of this can be done with the softwares that we use. Right? So personally, I've been using MATLAB for a very long time. If you use a higher version of MATLAB, a lot of things can be done. Right? So you can put in a lot of information in the graph as well. Right? Another thing which I've always noted, which is not really appreciated by the editors themselves, is we put a caption at the bottom. If you see figure 9 in the TID topology, and once we generate a plot through one of the softwares like MATLAB, it also gives the caption on top of the graph. Please ensure to remove it, because 2 captions the editors really don't like. They tend to think that we have not really proofread the article. Right? So we need to be very, very specific. So I read 4 to 5 times before submitting, and I don't do it just one after the other. Give myself time. If I've read now, tomorrow again I will read, then a day later I will read. So because it gives you a new perspective, right? Because these journals, the SCI index journals, we take about 6 to 8 months for the first review. Some take even 1 year, and if after that, unfortunately, it is rejected, then you have lost so much time, right? And over certain issues like this, then it really feels bad, because we should have done these kind of things before submission. So please pay a lot of attention on this. The SCI Index journal, the reviewers are very, very specific. We are given a list of do's and don'ts, and according to that we really need to review, right? So it's really some of the journals, if I take for example computer communications from Elsevier, it's a very strict journal. We need to, as a reviewer also, we need to follow the norms. So if certain things are not there, it just gets, the article gets rejected. So please review it, reread it, copy edit it. Please ask other people who are not in the domain to read it. They'll give you another perspective. So please make arrangement for all these things before submitting to an SCI Index journal. Next is the conclusion. Conclusion needs to be very clear. Again, conclusion should not be the copy paste of the abstract. It's a conclusion. It's not an abstract. Justify what your work has done, right? How is it relevant in the field, and why you've done this work, and what is the overall result of this. Please, you can mention future experiments, future scope. It is okay to share your plans. No issues. You will see in SCI Index journals, almost always the last paragraph of conclusion would say, we intend to do so and so, we want to do so and so, we wish to investigate so and so. They always mention. So there's no harm in mentioning, there's no harm in mentioning these kind of activities. Okay, so please go ahead and mention what your future scope and plan is. If someone wants to collaborate with you, no issues on that. Right? So let me show you some example. So in the current work, we focused on so and so. To the best of our knowledge, our study is first. So this is very important line. To the best of our knowledge, this is the first study that we have done so and so. We compared some studies. We also compared with some other studies. The results demonstrated whatever they had demonstrated. And as a scope for future research, we aim to do so and so, and we wish to investigate so and so. Right? So I've given a complete, tried to give a complete overview of, the study which I have conducted, starting from what I have done to, how I have done and what the results have demonstrated, following, what I wish to do in the future. So if someone wants to collaborate with me, with the same thing, that's great. I would, always collaborate with them. You could also give some acknowledgements if you wish to, depending on if you are funded through an agency, they would definitely want you to acknowledge. You could acknowledge some people who have helped you out, really helped you out. If you are writing an article with your supervisor, we do not really acknowledge them because they are part of the article. So their name would be in the article. In certain domains, there are people who would give you material or test bed. So you could also thank them. In some of the domains like English literature and so on, they also acknowledge the typist, which is not the case in engineering because we only type it. So agency would be acknowledged. Of course, I have seen some journals which have acknowledged family members and all that. I'm sure everybody is aware we should not do that. Right? It needs to be very, very professional. This is not a mandatory section. However, if you wish to do it, you can always do that. References. One of the key, key sections in the SCI Indexed. Please do not use references just for the sake of it. Just because I want to put a reference, please don't do that. Excessive self-citations should not be done. So I have published 5 papers. This is my 6th paper. I will just cite all of those 5. No, please do not do that. That will improve your H index, but it's of no use. The reviewer will definitely highlight. If it is an extension study from one of the previous journals, please go ahead and highlight that, refer to that, but not necessarily to highlight all your work. As a reviewer also, we are told by SCI Index journals not to mention our work to be cited by authors. No. So I cannot say to the author that, as a revision, include these studies of mine. I cannot do that. Okay. So there's a lot of check on that. Please avoid self-citations. Please conform to the guide of authors. Please. IEEE is not the one that is followed by all the journals. Okay. If you go with an Elsevier journal, they follow, different APA styles and so on. So all that is mentioned in the guide to authors. Please follow that. Okay, so what I do personally is there are some articles which will be open access in the journals. I just download them and then I see the reference list which is there and I follow that reference list. So you have various ways of doing the references. You could do it in a Word format. You could do LaTeX. You could do any citing platform which is available, and you could use different ways, but please follow the reference properly. Excessive citation from a particular region is also not appreciated. So I just keep citing from India or US. That's also not appreciated. So please give a complete review. Try to that I've covered different regions as well, because there are articles all over the globe, right? So it's not that only certain people are working on a particular aspect, right? So a lot of people are working. Please try to do that. So these are some of the styles of references. So there's IEEE format, there's APA format. So there are different kinds, and please follow them. Some use volume number with issue number, page number. Some use double colon, double quotes. Some use abbreviation. Some do not use abbreviation. So please look at the guide of authors and please do that. Otherwise, there are some journals return it back, saying that it's not in order. The journal office, before it goes to the editor itself, returns back saying that please put it in order. That just delays your process for review. So within a week they send you back, then you do the correction, then you send it, then within a week they send it for you. So you have lost about 2 to 3 weeks in doing so, right? So please ensure that at the very first instance, you end up following these norms, right? So overall, this is the structure of a research article. You would have the problem statement, which we start with, any methodology, if you have any findings, any conclusion. That could be the abstract part, right? Abstract needs to be very clear. In the introduction, I've already shown what we could do, with highlighting what exists, what are the loopholes or what are the gaps, and what is it that we are trying to do in our work, right? And then you could have a literature review or a related work section as well, where you could put a little bit of paragraphs to show what review you have done, depending on the number of pages that the journal allows you. Then is the methodology, the results discussion, conclusion, if you wish to have an acknowledgement. So I think I've covered all these sections in detail and what exactly they do. So I'll leave the slide also with the coordinator, and you can see how you could structure your article. But the best way of learning the how to write is always going to be through trial and error. There's no set way. You always do it, and accepted, revised, rejection, all these things. These are part and parcel of the research work, but the quality needs to be there if you want to go with an SCI index journal, right? So I wish to show some example articles. So ma'am, just wanted to know how much time do I have?
Sir, you can proceed, sir, no problems.
Okay. So I'll just unshare the screen and I'll show you a couple of articles. So they are my articles, and I'm allowed to show them. So let me show you some of the articles. So let me start with this. I hope you are able to see the article.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is a 3-page article, and it was, as you can read on the top right corner, an international conference on fiber optics and photonics. It's a photonics conference which occurs biannually in one of the IITs. So this was the one in 2016. And in one of the slides, I mentioned about 35-page abstract, and this is the 35-page abstract. So you can see we started with we investigate and the results demonstrate. That's it. You can also see the keywords. These are OCIS codes, and these are very specific to the OSA, that is Optical Society of America. So we were not allowed to use keywords. We rather had to use the OCIS codes. So when we were submitting this, we could choose from a drop-down menu the OCIS codes. So these match to the optical networks. So that's why we've chosen. So we have an introduction, which is very small introduction. We had to be very clear. And so you can see the last paragraph we have written. In this study, we investigate so and so, and further we also investigate. And then we had to mention our design, And you can see we had to mention the mathematics in 2 columns because the space was very less, followed by what is the problem. You can see that we are mentioning the mathematics here, and then we detailed it, followed by the simulation results, and we had the diagrams here. So we really struggled a lot. It took us almost 6 months to really, uh, to really format this article. We had the results with us, we had everything with us, but just to uh, concise it into 3 pages was very, very difficult. So it took me almost, if I remember correctly, almost 3 days to fit these references in, because they were going into the 4th page, and we could not, change the number of lines or the spacing. We could not do that. So really, to write a particular kind of English was very difficult, and to also convey to the reader all our results was very, very difficult. So this was one of the hardest task I had, because it was 3 pages with a 35-page abstract. One of the easier ones which I've always done is the review article, because you have absolutely so much space. So you can see here, this is about 19 pages, and it just goes on and on. Instead of the keywords, we use the keywords, and we also used what is known as PSCS, because this journal is the publisher is from Germany, and they require the PSCS, which corresponds to optical networks. So we had to choose those as well. And this is a complete review article. What I have always done in my review article for SCI index journals is, rather than only taking the work which is done by other authors, I also mention some work which I have done. So the reviewer feels that, okay, even this author has done some work. So you can see here, I have put a graph here. This graph is one of our conference studies. So we mentioned to the reviewer, to the journal, that we are doing a review. However, we have also contributed in this review. So that's always a good idea to do. At some instances, you may not have any results with you. You may not have done any work. That's fine. I'm only suggesting. If you are able to do it, then it's always, it's always good to do so. Okay. So this just is a lot of review that we did. I'm just going to scroll down quickly. We gave a lot of, details to a particular, to the readers of how things should be done. I want to highlight, these diagrams. So we have really classified what is known as PLI ARW. I am not going to detail that, but there's something that exists which we have classified. So we put them in different flowcharts. So it becomes easier for the reader and the reviewer to see. So these are some of the innovative things which you can do in a review article. Okay. It gets you a lot of citations. So this particular SCI article has fetched me more than 10,000 reads. Okay. And it has got me more than 50 citations. So it really helps, but the effort that it takes is a lot. It took us almost close to 8 to 10 months, and the review itself took about 1 year, because the reviewer also has to read a lot, but it needs to be specific. So the revisions which we got were not many, they were minimal, and then within the next 3 months it was published. So the effort required here will be very much. Okay. So, and then always in a review article, I will always suggest to my students, as well as suggest to the participant, always have a table. So you can see here, we are having a table, comparison of different classes of algorithm, and we have made it very clear, like what are the classes. So it's easier for the reader to really look at these, right? Rather than just have the words. And then we have the conclusion, and in the conclusion, we have mentioned different kinds of, see, I'll highlight this. During our survey, we identified several important issues. Some of these issues are as follows, right? So we have mentioned many issues, right? Now I'm thinking, reading this, we should have probably mentioned it in serial wise, 1, 2, 3, 4, which we have done in one of the other articles. But we have mentioned these issues, and out of these issues, we were able to target 3 and 4. So nobody really will question later on that our research articles are not novel, right? And then we put some acknowledgements, because this was funded through AICTE RPS scheme. And then we have references, and it was according to the journal style. And you can see that the references are just so many other, about 119 references, right? So this is another review article which we had done. So I'll quickly scroll down and really show you what I was mentioning before. So here we have mentioned during our review, we have identified some challenges, and here we have put it serially. So you can see the previous article was in 2012. We learned from it that if we do not really put them in serial order, it's not good for the reader. So in 2014, when we were reviewing, we put them in serial order. So it's a learning process. We must always, be open to learning. So it is now very clear that this article is giving us about 8 research challenges, and out of this, if a PhD student or a master student tackles 2 or 3, then it's a novel work, and that is exactly what we have done. The next article I want to show is our latest article of mine in Springer, Journal of Optical Communication. So this is a regular article of 14 pages. So I'm not going to really tell you what the details of it, because it's exactly what I've covered in the PPT. So problem statement, I'm just going to scroll down the mathematics. It involves certain mathematics here. And the results, right? The simulation results. So we've given results in this form, the tabular form, and also the graphical form. So these were some of the results with the references part. And then this is one of the articles which we got in one of the IEEE conferences called SPCOM, which is a biannual conference in IISc Bangalore. So this is a 5-page conference article, and you can see this is the IEEE norm there. So I think everyone would be aware of this. Right? Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and go back to the slide. So there are a few other things which I just want to mention for the which will help the participants. So, ma'am, are you able to see the slide?
Sir, yes, sir.
Okay. So the next aspect is about what is known as the cover letter. Some journals make it mandatory for the authors to submit a cover letter. However, I follow the procedure of always submitting a cover letter, because this is my way of telling the editor that, see, my manuscript or article is good, and please accept it for a review, and so on and so forth. So this is your way to really interact with the editor. So these days, when we submit the articles in SCI indexed portal, journal portal, you always get that option of cover letter. Some make it mandatory, some do not. So I'm just showing you one of the examples of a cover letter. So this is a cover letter before when I'm submitting for the first time. So you can see the subject is submission of manuscript for review. So editor, we intend to publish so and so, and I'm giving all the details of the corresponding author. I'm also giving the keywords, article type, and the abstract. So this is my way of telling the editor that, see, it's a novel, a manuscript which we have, and because of which please accept it for review. This is the other cover letter. This is once I got a review and I'm sending the revisions back. So you can see a list of responses to reviewers' comment of the manuscript so and so, and then I'm writing to the editor that please accept this revisions, and the revised article has also been uploaded. So there is no format for it. Just made my own format, but I would always suggest that you always have a cover letter. You can interact with the editor. Some editors are very, very senior professionals, so it is always good to write professionally to them. I think this everybody will be aware of. I don't have to stress on it. There's so many softwares which are available. SCI index journals always use Authenticate. They do not use Turnitin. So I'll tell you what happens from a reviewer's point of view. So if I get a journal which is if I get an article from an SCI index journal for review, they give me 2 or 3 slots to use Authenticate, because it's a costly software. So what they say is, very first time you run it through Authenticate and see the plagiarism. Then after that, if there is the article is accepted with revisions, once the revision comes in, I get that slot to run it through Authenticate again. Right? So we get Authenticate that slot to check the plagiarism for every article that we have. Right? So what is the problem in plagiarism which I have seen? One is plagiarism which is outright, where I just use, copy paste whatever the other author has done. Of course, there are some things which will not change. E equal to mc square is never going to change. G equal to 9.8 meter per second square is not going to change. But when I use that, I always need to cite it. But there are sentences and statements which we need to modify accordingly, and then also cite the users. So that aspect always the plagiarism software will check if you use Turnitin or Authenticate. But there is another one which really has come to a lot of notice, where you are using the idea and concept and you write it in a manner that the plagiarism software cannot detect. So, for example, I take your article, I read through it, I check the idea, okay, and then I write the manuscript in a manner that when I run these through, it will not give me any plagiarism. But I have copied the idea. As a reviewer, I will not know. As a reviewer, the only time I will know about this idea is if I am also reading continuously. Then I will know that, okay, some author X has already implemented this. But if I'm not that kind of reviewer, I will say everything is perfect and I'll go ahead. And this has happened. This is known as patent landscaping. Okay, and this a lot of patent offices are dealing with, where the ideas are captured, but plagiarism software really doesn't give you anything. So just imagine a mathematical framework. Your plagiarism software really doesn't work because it doesn't look at the equations, right? But the idea can be plagiarized or stolen, if you want to call it, right? So please beware of all these kind of things. Plagiarism is a very it's not a very good act at all. So please don't do that. Of course, journals say this much of plagiarism, that much of plagiarism. If you go for chapters, they specify less than 15% and so on and so forth. So please make sure that you're doing that. Also, please don't reuse your own work, self-plagiarism or self-citation. Please don't do that. So a lot of people take offense to a lot of these things. So please don't do that. Revision, when you get a revision back, please read it thoroughly. Don't say why a revision has come or everything was perfect, because see, it's perfect from my point of view or my team's point of view, but then someone else is reviewing. So please look at the revision, answer to each and every revision, read again the revised article 2 to 3 times, follow what the copy editing is, and then you submit your manuscript with a cover letter. For a revision, please submit a cover letter. Okay, so I always do that. It really helps. The editors really appreciate it. Okay, please do that. After submission, it varies from journal to journal. My experience with SCI index journals is takes about 8 to 10 months. Some take even a year, more than that. It's rigorous. Even the revisions take as much. So you just have to put up with that. Okay, but the end result is really good because it's an SCI indexed journal that you have. So you could have an accept with revision, major or minor, or you just have a reject. If it is accepted, after that you have a galley proof, which you can read. What the editorial office does most of the work for you. If the reviewer is unable to understand a certain point which you have made, please don't get angry, or please don't say the reviewer doesn't know anything. It's most likely because it's not clear from our end, the author's end, most likely. But then some reviewers are really adamant. If they are, let's say, industry reviewers, they would be adamant on a certain point. So you'll really have to make way through that kind of reviewer and put your point across. But please don't disrespect or disagree just outrightly, because ultimately it is your article which is at stake. So please go through this galley proof and revisions properly. Have a team of people who do it for you, rather than just 1 or 2 people. So these deficiencies will come in the article, and please be open to that. This is an age-old question. Even now, after about 12 years of being into research, I really don't know what happens if papers get rejected. And same would be told by the professionals who have been in this field for so long. The idea is don't be discouraged. But it is easier said than done. Of course, anyone would get discouraged. Usually, the early career researchers, they really get discouraged. So it is up to the supervisors, their mentors, to really pick them up. Once it's rejected, it would be rejected with certain points. Please don't just take that and submit to another journal, because most likely with SCI, I'm saying, You could always go lower and submit it, that's fine. But I'm talking about SCI journal. So don't pick it up from this SCI journal and put it, submit it in another SCI, because most likely the result is going to be the same. The journals, as I've been stressing on, they don't look at the quantity, they look at more of the quality part of what your work is, and why it is justified, why it is novel. So please address all the aspects after a rejection, and then submit it to a proper journal as well, right? Sometimes journals just return back the articles because there are a lot of articles in the queue, right? So that is not a rejection, that's just a return back, and they will tell you are free to submit to another journal. Please do not submit to multiple journals. Absolutely not allowed. You will be blacklisted. There's a Creative Commons license, CCC, which is done by all the SCI index journals. So please don't submit, don't have a multiple submission. That's not allowed. So most likely you'll be caught. Okay, so please don't do that. Please don't change the title and submit it, and please don't change here and there and do it. But most likely will be caught with SCI index journals. So please don't go that way at all. My strong suggestion is don't even think of that path at all. Just one submission at one time, and then go with that. What to avoid? Just data without any discussion, definitely to be avoided. Review of literature is not sufficient. You need to mention your own work as well, right? Extension work is always not very good. Just have advanced. So lambda was 2 in this journal. I've made lambda equal to 5. That will not fetch you an HCI index journal, right? It needs to be novel. So incremental work or extension just by tuning few parameters, that's not going to work, right? Probably will happen in some Scopus indexed early journal, but not in SCI index journal. To do even better, if at all we've been using this word, English is not my native language, it's high time. Please stop doing that. I hope no one takes it otherwise, but please don't use that as an excuse. It has to be written in the language, it has to be written. And so please pay a lot of attention on the English part, because a lot of SCI indexed journals which I have reviewed the articles, many of them get rejected because of these issues, right? So badly written papers will outrightly reject. Reviewers will not even look at it. Because see, reviewers are one of us. They are professionals like us, so they are very busy. So you really need to give them, and it's voluntary work. It's only these days, very lately, that reviewers have started getting some certificate out of Elsevier, Springer, and so on. But it's a voluntary work. So please give them some motivation to read your paper and give some reviews. So please don't write it badly, with English and all that. Okay, so that's not an excuse. So 10 characteristics of a dull paper. This has been already mentioned in one of the articles. So just making article very long. I'm sure all these 10 steps will be very clear. There is articles focusing only on results, but the other part is not there. There's no focus on the other end, just making it long, no illustrations, just making it sound like your research is just too serious without really backing it. Those kind of things will not really work. So that's dull. 7 steps to publishing. This is the latest one which I read on the Elsevier website. I've mentioned the website as well, updated in April. So it really tells you what are the 7 steps to publish in a scientific journal. So read the aims and scope of the journal. Do not just rush. I have collected results, I want to submit. Don't do that. Please take your time. Make a good first impression. So have a good abstract, have a good introduction. Please copy edit it, look at the English part. Cover letter, as I've been saying, it may not be mandatory, but please do that. Reviewers comment, please look at those, right? So overall, I would say in SCI index journal, the acceptance rate is very, very less. So please be ready for a rejection. Okay, have that in mind that most likely, it could be rejected because only quality papers really go in. But that doesn't mean that we should not try. That doesn't mean that ours is not quality. So please try hard to make it look like, you have done quality work and do it so. So the rejection rate is very high, acceptance is very, very good. Right? So, but if you get through, then the results that you get out of it is very, very good. Right? So please have this in mind. It could be rejected, but then you have done a good work, and try to revise your article in that. So finally, my research, as in the introduction it was mentioned by ma'am, I'm into 6G. Very recently, I've got into that. Most of my work has been on optical networks. You can contact me for any collaborative research. I also work a lot on project fundings, so you could contact me for that. You could go to Google Scholar to look at my work. You can contact me through officially through research at sdbit.edu.in or personally through Sridhar Iyer at sdbit.edu.in. Please have an ORCID ID. It's mandatory for SCI indexed journals. It needs to be mentioned below our email ID in the article. Also, if you don't have a ResearchGate ID and a profile, it's high time. Please do make it. You get a lot of insights from ResearchGate. ORCID ID is a mandatory perspective. You can search it on any search engine and it will take you to ORCID. So that is all from my end. I hope I've given you enough perspective on how to go about a journal article, especially an SCI indexed article. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Participants, you can kindly unmute and ask all the questions. So, Vijay Sharon. Vijay Sharon, sir. Yeah, Jay Sharon, sir, you can go. Yeah.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir. So actually, my question is, can we do research or any research or publish any paper without taking admission into PhD? And will it be helpful in taking admission into PhD? I mean, any guide will prioritize it or not?
That's a very good question, sir. Usually, when you are sending in an article, it is required for the authors to have a particular affiliation. However, there are SCI index journals. I think there's some.
Sharon, sir, you can unmute your mic, sir. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll begin from the start. So whenever we put in an article into for a review in an SCI index journal, they really want the authors to be affiliated. So if you do not take an admission into, let's say, PhD or masters, then but at least you should have an affiliation. You should be like affiliated to a university or a college like that. To be very specific with your question about can you publish a paper without taking into admission, there's nothing like publication equals PhD. There's nothing like that. There are so many people who publish without a PhD. If you go into industry, let's say Nokia or Intel or anything, they don't have a PhD, but they publish, right? So there's nothing like you need to be doing a PhD or you need to have a PhD to publish. I'm sure all the academicians who are present here, they would be publishing with their undergraduate students, and the undergraduate students and the supervisor may not be pursuing a PhD or may not have a PhD. So there's nothing like you need to have a PhD to publish. Will it help in securing an admission into PhD? Yes. I always would want my prospective student to show me what their interest is or what their work is. And this happens a lot in benchmark institutes like IITs and NITs, where incoming doctoral candidates have done some prior work. So it is always suggested to do that. It's not mandatory, by the way. So definitely you do not need to be doing a PhD to publish a paper. There's nothing like that. But an affiliation will be required. So if you're able to cover that, then there's nothing like it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Welcome, sir.
So, excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm Gurushekhar. So I want to know about Research Square, sir. Whether through Research Square, if we publish if the paper is getting rejected, means it is showing in the plagiarism. So, any details can you able to give about that Research Square, sir? It is like imprint, reprint, or something.
Yeah, that's what I mean. These are it's very ambiguous when you use the. I mean, this is my experience. Even Turnitin, I would want to mention it, and it has happened with me in my last chapter which I was doing. So Turnitin really showed me about 12%, and then when we did it through Authenticate, it showed us about 18%. But the publisher required us to have less than 15% of plagiarism. So if we would have submitted with that 12% Turnitin report, we would have got a revision back because Authenticate showed us 18. So I really don't know how these softwares work because they say Authenticate is more rigorous. In what aspect is it rigorous? I really have no idea. How does it work? But I would, apart from these two, I wouldn't go with any other plagiarism software because really. How much is the amount of plagiarism it shows, it's not really clear. So I would at least go with Turnitin. And if your institution has Authenticate, then nothing like it.
So Turnitin is there. So actually, Research Square, like when we submitted a paper in Springer, in that it asking for your paper should be added in the Research Square.
Okay, okay.
Research Square. So in that way, we published, we
Okay, okay.
attached, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
has
So,
it has been rejected. So
okay.
later, when we check for the plagiarism, it is showing like that. So
Yeah,
what we can do in
so
that
that's
case?
what that is my this thing. I mean, the journals say that, and then this happens. So to be honest with you, sir, I go with Turnitin because all your institutes would be having Turnitin. Many institutes would not have Authenticate. So I would go with Turnitin. So if a journal or any publisher is asking 15%, so I ensure that in Turnitin I get less than 10%. So I have done that mathematics that Authenticate will show me about 14%. So that's how I do it. But it's not very clear even to me which one to do really go for. That's how I work.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks. So kind of you. Thank you.
Welcome, sir. Welcome. Any other questions?
Jay Seelan, sir, you can ask the question, sir. Jay Seelan? Hello? Yes. Jay Seelan, sir. That's all I think so, sir. Thank
Okay.
you, sir.
Ma'am, there are few questions I'm able to read on the
In
chat
the
box.
chat boxes, sir.
Yes, yes. I think Manoj Kumar Elipe sir had a question. I'll just read out. Dear sir, there are so many fake journals in Scopus database. Kindly cover how to identify which is Scopus index and which is fake. Well, I think I addressed that during the presentation.
Yes, sir. You address it, sir.
Yeah. So give it time. Some Scopus index journals which don't remain in Scopus, they are the fake ones. And UGC always keeps giving this fake and predatory journal aspect every time. So please look into that.
Yes,
I think there's one from Shiv Shankar Namani sir.
yes, sir. How do I find top 50 SCI source titles?
I don't know, sir, if 50 SCI source titles will help you. With SCI, this is again my perspective.
Sir, Jay Seelan, sir, can you unmute your mic, sir? Please. It's very noisy, sir.
Okay.
So, Jay Seelan, sir, otherwise you can put me a question in the chat box, sir.
Yes, madam. Madam, now audible,
Yes,
madam.
sir. And now audible, sir. Yeah.
Yes, madam. Thank you, madam. Sir, a very good presentation. I learned a lot from this your presentation, sir, and you given a clear idea about how present and how you can revise and everything, sir. Sir, I have the two questions, but already you answered one question, sir. That is, you was mentioned Authenticate better with compared with the Turnitin. Okay, sir. That also you explained. I have the same question, but you answered, sir. Thank you, sir. And another one, sir. Suppose if you submit to Annexer or SCA journals, some journals it will be quickly responded. For example, it will be replied in 1 or 2 days, it will be rejected or something without any reason. Some in the same case, I submitted to some other journal, but what was sent to editor like that, it was mentioned. But after 6 months, it was rejected. So such a case is what we do, sir. So if it is rejected 1 or 2 days, we happy and we can. If comments give, if it is any, if you receive any comments, you can rectify those comments and you can answer it. That in the last stage it was mentioned clearly. So you cannot just you cannot submit same paper that is, you can answer those comments and you can submit to some other. You can just mention some journals. They're doing like that. For example, it takes 7 months. Even they're not given some comments. For example, the last that is, I was submitted one paper in the, during December 2020. Last month I was rejected. So, but they are not mentioned a single thing. But it was mentioned. So I have not get. I am not get any kind of reviewer. Actually, there is no review is not taken to this paper like that. It was mentioned and it is rejected, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So
Please suggest for such a thing,
yes,
sir.
sir.
How we can. Yes, sir.
So that is a very common issue which happens. So I will share my experience. So me and my students have submitted one of the articles in December 2020, and till now the article is only with editor. So it has not sent. It's been sent for review, and it has been about 8 to 9 months now. Okay, and I don't know if it would enter the review phase or I may get a result like how sir you have mentioned. So most likely in this case, what happens is, especially in SCI index journals, it is the editor who keeps reading your article. Okay, because the editor himself or herself is an expert in the area of the article which you have submitted, and then the editor decides whether to send this to do a further review phase or not. Because please try to understand that the reviewers, it's a voluntary job. So if I send to a reviewer as an editor, if I send to the reviewer or an article about which even I am not sure, then those reviewers will really not review for me later on. So that is the editor's perspective. Therefore, the editor himself or herself takes time to review it. And then if you get a rejection, as in your case that you mentioned, most likely it is the editor himself or herself who has not deemed it fit for the journal. This is editor's perspective. Now I will come to, sir, your perspective as an author. It is absolutely a time which has passed, and really, it is not fair on the author that you keep an article for so long and then it is not even reviewed. So that is something that happens. It is a very common thing that happens. On the other end, which you have mentioned, in a day or two they return back saying so and so, or the queue is long, and so it really is, sir, to be honest with you, part and parcel of this article publishing case. So there's nothing that we can really do. So, but this is the inside story which I have understood, which happens.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Welcome.
Thanks.
So another question, sir. Any good diagrammatic tools are available? Nasima has asked a question.
Diagram. I really have not used much of diagrams because my domain really doesn't have much of the diagrams. So I'm really, sir, not aware of that. Journal specific, you could ask the journal office and they would suggest these kind of tools for you, because I have not used it, so I really have not much idea about it, sir.
Okay, sir. So another question from Partha Saradi, sir. So whether it is advisable to prefer always latex-based documents prepared, or just by using Microsoft Word is sufficient?
Well, I would say 90% of the time these days, journals prefer a very normal copy editing from the authors, a very simply written Word document of the article, because it converts to the PDF by its own portal. At the end, before submitting, you need to view the PDF and the HTML version of your article. So you really don't have to do the latex aspect. There are some journals which prefer latex. So in that case, you will have to do latex. Personally, I have not done latex for the last 5 to 6 years, because all the articles that I submit are just in Word format, which are converted directly into a PDF format, and I get the results. I get the article from there. Latex I would use if I'm doing a review paper. It helps me with bibliography. So a review paper, I always use a latex. So apart from that, I really don't use latex that much.
Okay, sir. Any other questions, ma'am? I think that's all, sir. That's all, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation, sir. So can you kindly share the presentation to Krishnamurthy, sir, or I can take it from and share in the group, sir?
Sure, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you very much, sir. Krishnamurthy, sir. Krishnamurthy, sir, are you there? I think she has gone for class, I think so.
Okay. No
Yeah.
problem.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me. I hope I've given some perspective.
Yes, sir. Sir, you have given a lot of perspectives, sir. Actually, we had a clear idea now, sir.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Thank you.
Please,
Thank you, sir.
yeah, participants can are free to contact me.
Sir, can you put your mail ID in the chat boxes?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Hello.
Yeah. Anyone is there? Vijay?
Yes.
Hello.
Can I ask one more question, sir?
Yeah. Do it, sir.
Sir, doing PhD from private institutions and government institution, does it make any difference?
I would say no, because wherever we are at, the quality of the publication really matters. So you could be in sir, one of the benchmark institutes and do a very average work, and you could be in a very average place and do really wonderful work. Because really research, I mean, with the internet, it is you have access to everything, so it really doesn't matter. The degree absolutely does not matter. It's actually the your publications and the work you do during PhD and post PhD that really matters. So I won't say that you need to go to this institute or that institute to do a really good PhD. It's you can sit anywhere and do it. But again, it really depends on the initial part of your PhD to get motivated and to do proper work, and that comes from the supervisor. So if the supervisor is lethargic, or if the supervisor himself or herself is not that trained in these aspects, then your doctorate also ends up in the same way. So if that is covered, then really it does not matter. That is my perspective.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. I've put in my email ID.
Yes,
so
sir. I put in the group also, sir.
Yeah, you can contact me.
Thank you, sir.
I will share the PPT to with Krishnamurthy sir, and you can please send it to all the participants.
Yes, sir. I'll put in the group. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you for having me, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, participants. I have put the feedback link in the chat box. You can fill it up. Within Monday, we'll issue the certificates. Sorry for the delay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Can I exit, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.